Vietnam, a Southeast Asian nation, is shaped like an elongated S. It is bordered by China to the north, Laos and Cambodia to the west, and the South China Sea to the east. This unique geography has played a crucial role in shaping Vietnam's destiny. It served as a gateway for cultural exchange and, at times, a battleground against invasions. For thousands of years, Vietnam has been a crossroads of civilizations. Its history is a testament to the resilience and spirit of its people. Vietnam's story is one of both struggle and triumph. From its origins as a collection of tribal groups to its emergence as a modern nation, Vietnam has constantly redefined itself. This essay will explore the major milestones in Vietnam's past, highlighting the key events and figures that have shaped this fascinating nation. We will delve into the ancient kingdoms, the long struggle against foreign domination, and the eventual path to independence and reunification. Through this journey, we will encounter legendary figures like the Hung Kings, who laid the foundation of the first Vietnamese state. We will witness the bravery of leaders like Trung Trac and Trung Nhi, who challenged Chinese rule. And we will learn about the pivotal role of figures like Ho Chi Minh, who led Vietnam to independence in the 20th century. Join us as we uncover the rich tapestry of Vietnam's past and gain a deeper understanding of this vibrant nation's present and future. The story of Vietnam begins with the ancient kingdom of Van Lang, founded around the Red River Delta in 2879 BC. This marked the dawn of Vietnamese civilization and the beginning of a rich cultural heritage. Leading the Van Lang people were the Hung Kings. These legendary figures are considered the progenitors of the Vietnamese people. The Hung Kings ruled for over 2 millennia, establishing a legacy of strong leadership and cultural unity. They implemented effective agricultural practices, harnessing the fertile lands of the Red River Delta. The Hung Kings also fostered a strong sense of community and shared identity among the early Vietnamese people. Under their rule, Vietnamese society flourished. Legends and folklore from this era, passed down through generations, provide glimpses into the lives and beliefs of the ancient Vietnamese. The story of the dragon and the fairy, for instance, speaks to the mythical origins of the Vietnamese people. The era of the Hung Kings represents a foundational chapter in Vietnamese history. It was a time of early state formation, cultural development, and the establishment of a distinct Vietnamese identity. This period laid the groundwork for the complex and fascinating history that would unfold in the following centuries. The year 111 BC marked a turning point in Vietnamese history. The mighty Han dynasty of China conquered the Nan Yue kingdom, which included parts of present-day Vietnam. This conquest ushered in a period of Chinese domination that would last for over 1,000 years. The Chinese brought their language, political systems, and Confucian philosophy, significantly impacting Vietnamese society. Despite Chinese rule, the Vietnamese people never fully surrendered their identity or their desire for independence. Throughout this period, numerous uprisings erupted against Chinese control. The most famous of these rebellions was led by the Trung sisters, Trung Trac and Trung Nhi. In 40 AD, the Trung sisters, riding war elephants and rallying the Vietnamese people, managed to drive out the Han authorities and briefly reclaim Vietnamese independence. Their bravery and tenacity made them national heroes, symbols of Vietnamese resistance against foreign rule. Their story continues to inspire generations of Vietnamese. Though the Trung sisters' rebellion was eventually suppressed, it demonstrated the indomitable spirit of the Vietnamese people. This spirit of resistance would continue to smolder, ready to ignite whenever the opportunity for freedom arose. Vietnam's history during this period is a testament to the constant struggle to maintain its cultural identity and sovereignty. Section 4, Golden Eras, the rise of Vietnamese dynasties. After centuries of Chinese domination, a pivotal moment arrived in 938 AD. Ngo Quyen, a Vietnamese general, defeated the Chinese forces at the Battle of Bac Dang River. This decisive victory ended Chinese rule and ushered in a new era for Vietnam. It was a period marked by the emergence of powerful dynasties that would shape Vietnam's destiny. The Lai dynasty, established in 1009, ushered in a golden age for Vietnam. The Lý rulers embraced Buddhism, which became a cornerstone of Vietnamese culture. They also moved the capital to Hanoi, solidifying its position as the nation's political and cultural center. The Lý dynasty laid the foundation for a strong and prosperous Vietnam. Following the Lý dynasty, the Tran dynasty further strengthened Vietnam's position on the regional stage. The Tran rulers successfully repelled 3 Mongol invasions in the 13th century. These victories solidified Vietnam's military prowess and secured its independence for centuries to come. In 1428, Le Loi, a peasant leader, emerged victorious after a decade-long struggle against the Ming dynasty of China. He established the Lý dynasty, which would rule for nearly 4 centuries. The Lei era witnessed significant territorial expansion, cultural achievements, and the creation of a legal code based on Confucian principles. Section 5. The shadow of the tricolor French colonization of Vietnam. The arrival of European powers in Southeast Asia during the 19th century marked a turning point in Vietnam's history. France, seeking to expand its colonial empire, gradually increased its influence in Vietnam, exploiting internal divisions within Vietnam and using the pretext of protecting Catholic missionaries. France imposed its rule over the country through a series of military interventions. In 1887, France established French Indochina, a colonial federation that included Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. The French colonial administration exploited Vietnam's resources, modernized infrastructure to serve their interests, and suppressed local customs and traditions. This period saw the dismantling of traditional Vietnamese societal structures and the imposition of French language, culture, and administration. French colonization had a profound and lasting impact on Vietnamese society. It led to economic exploitation, social upheaval, and the suppression of Vietnamese culture and identity. It also sowed the seeds of nationalism, as the Vietnamese people yearned for freedom and self-determination. This desire for independence would eventually culminate in a struggle for liberation from colonial rule. The French colonial period was a time of both progress and oppression. While it brought about some advancements in infrastructure and education, it came at the cost of Vietnamese autonomy and sovereignty. This era played a crucial role in shaping Vietnam's national identity and its path towards independence in the 20th century. Section 6. A Nation Awakens. The Rise of Vietnamese Nationalism. The 20th century witnessed the awakening of Vietnamese nationalism in response to French colonial rule. Early resistance movements, often led by scholars and mandarins, were inspired by Confucian ideals of justice and righteous rebellion. However, these movements were often suppressed by the French authorities. As the 20th century progressed, a new generation of Vietnamese nationalists emerged, influenced by communist and nationalist ideologies from abroad. Figures like Phan Boi Chau advocated for complete independence and sought support from Japan and other foreign powers to overthrow the French. These movements gained momentum, especially after the First World War, which exposed the vulnerabilities of European colonial powers. The rise of nationalism was further fueled by the exploitation and inequalities experienced by the Vietnamese people under French rule. Forced labor, land dispossession, and discrimination fueled resentment and a desire for self-governance. The Vietnamese people yearned for a leader who could unify the country and lead them to independence. This desire for a unified and independent Vietnam set the stage for the emergence of one of the most influential figures in Vietnamese history, Ho Chi Minh. His leadership and the communist ideology he espoused would play a pivotal role in shaping the next chapter of Vietnam's struggle for independence. Section 7. The War for Independence, Ho Chi Minh and the Fight for Freedom. The struggle for Vietnamese independence intensified after World War II. The defeat of Japan, which had occupied Vietnam during the war, created a power vacuum that nationalist forces were quick to fill. Ho Chi Minh, a communist leader who had been organizing for Vietnamese independence for decades, returned to Vietnam from exile. On September 2, 1945, Ho Chi Minh declared Vietnam's independence, proclaiming the formation of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. Drawing inspiration from the American Declaration of Independence, Ho Chi Minh's declaration resonated with the Vietnamese people's aspirations for self-determination. However, the path to independence was far from smooth. France, seeking to reassert its colonial dominance, refused to recognize Vietnamese independence. This led to the First Indochina War from 1946 to 1954, a brutal conflict that pitted Vietnamese guerrilla forces against the French army. The war culminated in the decisive Vietnamese victory at Dien Bien Phu in 1954, forcing France to negotiate an end to its colonial presence in Indochina. The victory at Dien Bien Phu marked a turning point in the history of Vietnam and Southeast Asia. It shattered the myth of European colonial invincibility and inspired nationalist movements across the globe. For Vietnam, it marked the end of French colonial rule, but also the beginning of a new struggle for reunification and independence.